Mr. Deputy Speaker, with some trepidation, like many other members have said today, that I rise to make my maiden speech, particularly as some people might have noticed I'm nursing a particularly heavy cold, so do forgive me if I splutter during my delivery. I enjoyed the maiden speech from the Honourable Member for Bishop Auckland that we've just heard, and indeed all the other maiden speeches, both today and during the preceding few days. As an amateur psephologist, I've enjoyed hearing the potted political histories and geographical descriptions of many of the constituencies that I've studied in the newspaper lists and books over the years. It is certainly true that one of the things that probably unites all new members is our enthusiasm for talking about our constituencies. Bristol West includes the city centre and most of the famous landmarks and institutions of the city. At the eastern edge is Templemead Station, the original terminus of Brunel's Great Western Railway, a station and a line with which I am now becoming extremely familiar. The western boundary is formed by the Avon Gorge, bridged by Brunel's Clifton Suspension Bridge, probably the iconic image of Bristol that is known throughout the world. To the south lies the harbour, from where John Cabot sailed to Newfoundland in 1497, and from where, in the 19th century, Brunel again launched his ships that transformed voyages to all parts of the globe. A replica of Cabot's Matthew and the ongoing restoration of Brunel's SS Great Britain are now key attractions in Bristol's vibrant harbourside. The city's maritime heritage now coexists with the arts and media centres around our harbour, including the Watershed Media Centre, of which I've been a long-standing director, and the Arnold Feeney Gallery, as well as many commercial and leisure developments that are transforming the economy of the city centre. Within these boundaries, there are a great variety of communities. In the south-east, there is St Paul's, which every summer hosts a colourful carnival that attracts visitors from all over the country. It is a fixed and popular reminder of diverse, multicultural Bristol. In the West End, we have the elegant Georgian squares and crescents of Clifton and my own neighbourhood of Kingsdown. 40 years ago, these areas were in decline, but now again they are once more the most desirable housing districts in Bristol, with the fashionable shops and coffee houses that characterised them when they were laid out in the 18th century. To the north, over the Downs, Bristol's precious expanse of green space, protected by an Act of Parliament, lies Westbury-on-Trim. This is a community that has a history as long as the city of Bristol, into which it has since been subsumed, but it still retains at its centre a distinct village feel. In the midst of these communities lie the Edwardian and 30s suburbs that characterise Bristol West and are home to the thousands of professionals, managers, academics, students and government workers that comprise so many of my constituents. And at the heart of all this lies Bristol University. The university, together with the University of the West of England, makes a huge contribution to the life of the city. The research that goes on at the university, particularly in engineering, together with the work at Airbus just outside my constituency, makes me proud to represent a city that not only has an illustrious history, but where the future is being made. Last night, I attended the all-party parliamentary university group and dined with a room full of Vice-Chancellors, including the Vice-Chancellor of Bristol. He brought home to me that as a member of this House, I will have access to individuals and viewpoints that were previously unavailable to me, and there will be many opportunities for me as a new member to listen and learn, as well as having a platform for my own views. I am proud to be an alumnus of Bristol University. I went to Bristol University from Maiden Comprehensive School in South Wales. I hope they won't mind me saying so, but the Honourable Member for Pontypridd and the Right Honourable Member for Walsall South are also alumni of that school. Not bad, I think, for a school from the most deprived community, one of the most deprived communities in the country. But I have to say, if I was faced with the same financial arrangements the government has now put in place for students, I'm not sure that I would have gone to Bristol University. In some way, I think my life might have been somewhat different. Since graduating from Bristol in history, I have also qualified as a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation. To slightly amend the words of Jefferson, in this House there is always history and taxes, and I hope that my twin disciplines may be of some use in debate in the future. 2 summers ago, Purely for recreation, I researched the political history of Bristol. It was useful preparation for today, though I did not know so at the time. The City and County of Bristol, from the earliest days of Parliament, sent 2 representatives to this House. Since the Glorious Revolution in 1689, the electors often used their dual franchise to return both a Whig and a Tory member. In the early 18th century, elections turned on the protection of the West India trade or the emancipation of slaves, and once that issue was settled for the better, on the need for electoral reform, an issue that led to riots in the City in 1831. In 1885, the City was split into 4 constituencies, each with a single member, each of them elected by the single vote. A pattern that was replicated throughout the country persists to this day and is responsible for bringing all of us members to this House. From 1885 to 1997, there was 112 years of unbroken Conservative representation in Bristol West. A succession of Conservative grandees were elected from Sir Michael Hicks Beach, whose crest adorns this chamber, I noticed today, through Oliver Stanley and Walter Monckton, through to William Aldergrave, who was vanquished in 1997. And I will speak of my Labour predecessor in a moment. In 2005, I was elected as the first Liberal ever to represent Bristol West, and the first Liberal in the City for 70 years, but the first ever within the City boundaries to be elected in a genuine 3-cornered contest. The 3-way fight in Bristol West at the immediately preceding general election attracted attention from around the country as the most interesting, supposedly, most interesting contest in the election. A media cavalcade descended on Bristol West. So did the Prime Minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, half the Cabinet. I don't think they came to marvel at the achievements of Brunel or to take coffee in Clifton, but their political tourism, I have to say, was to of no avail. But why was it that the election in Bristol West was ferociously fought, whereas the rest of the City, the election was a relatively, I'm sure the members won't mind me saying, a relatively quiet affair? Why is it that the election in Bristol West was perceived as having a chance of changing the composition of this House, whereas the same was not said of the rest of the City? How can it be that the votes of the electors of Clifton, in my constituency, carried more weight than those of Lawrence Hill, or Windmill Hill, or Avonmouth in the other 3 City constituencies? Madam Deputy Speaker, first past the post is a fine way to settle a bet on a dog race, but it is no way to determine the government of our country. In the Queen's speech that we have laid before us, there are supposedly going to be means to adapt electoral administration. I'm sure there is much good work to be done, most notably on postal voting and electoral registration. But we don't need to tinker with the existing electoral system. We need to reform it radically, sweep away first past the post and introduce a system of fair votes. Electoral reform is an issue that unites me and my immediate predecessor. I have known Valerie Davey for over 12 years, since we were both elected to the now defunct Avon County Council. She was a shining example to me of the fact that there are decent people in all political parties who are doing their best for their communities. For the last 8 years, she served Bristol West diligently as a constituency member, and I know that for many people who decided for national political reasons to part company with the Labour Party on this occasion, it was for many of them a wrench to part company with Valerie, and I wish her well for the future. I will end with a reference to perhaps our most illustrious predecessor in Bristol, Edmund Burke. I noticed in the members' dining room a couple of evenings ago, and in the caption underneath his portrait, it says that he once spoke in the previous House to this for over 4 days. I'm not sure what he would have made of the 10-minute deadline that is crunching down on me at the moment. But on his statue in the city centre of Bristol is an extract from his hustings speech at the 1780 general election, and it reads as follows: "I want to be a member of Parliament, to have my share of doing good and of resisting evil." Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm sure it's a maxim that all of his successors have tried to uphold, and I will certainly attempt to adhere to it during my period of membership of this House. Well done. Yeah.